and gentlemen, I'm Eileen, and thank you for joining this evening Corporate Connect, as well as our audience from Facebook Live. Welcome everyone. This webinar is organized by SIAS and supported by SGX. Tonight, we are pleased to invite the senior management from Vividthree Holdings, Singapore's first listed immersive digital content production powerhouse, which specializes in virtual reality, visual effects, and computer-generated imagery. We will kickstart tonight's webinar with a presentation from Mr. Geoff Howie, market strategist from SGX on recent market highlights, followed by the corporate presentation by Mr. Charles Yeo, co-founder and managing director, and Mr. Jonathan Chang, advisor. And we will end off with a Q&A session. Without further ado, can I invite Mr. Geoff Howie to present, please?
Thanks very much, Eileen. If you could let me share my video, I can then show my face. Yes, start my video. Thank you. Okay, let me please share the screen. Okay. And thank you, and a very good evening to everybody. I'm just going to run through a quick 10 to 15 minute educative overview of what's been driving our stock market. So as you probably have noticed, up until yesterday, our Straits Times Index had gained 10% since the end of last year. So the year-to-date return ranks as Asia Pacific's most defensive benchmark for the past 7 to 8 weeks, with the FTSE Asia Pacific Index actually generating a decline of 2%. So the next most defensive index across the region has been the Stock Exchange of Thailand Index, which has generated a 6.5% gain. So with Singapore and Thailand stocks both making up close to 50% of the FTSE ASEAN All Share Index, the Southeast Asian benchmark has gained 4% in Singapore dollar terms in the year to date as of yesterday. So the overarching market driver for the year to date has really been inflation concerns, and that's seen an earlier than previously expected withdrawal of accommodative monetary policies across the globe, really, except for China pretty much. And those inflation concerns of early 2022 have seen very divergent sector returns, very much like those sequentially uneven global economic recoveries that span 2020 and 2021, just like they fueled divergent sector returns. So the effect of the higher inflation has seen the cause of it, which is on one hand, energy prices spike, and the effect of it has seen the banking sectors across the strongest sectors across the world in the year to date. Now, that's why the STI has performed so well with its 10% gain, because DBS, OCBC, and UOB make up 45% of the STI. So DBS, OCBC, and UOB, they've averaged 17% gains in the year through to the yesterday's close, and that's after they averaged 25% total returns last year. The trio, they did decline last week, 1%. And what we did see last week is, and we're seeing a lot of this touch and go type of rebalancing with the expectations for a 50 basis point hike rather than a 25 basis point hike at the upcoming 16th of March FOMC, declining from 87% before last week down to 33% at the end of last week and down to 11% this morning. So the interest rate expectations have started off. They've had these bouts of overly hawkishness, a little bit more dovish, and that has been driving much of the day-to-day swings in the sectors that have been affected by the increase in inflation. That extends to REITs as well. So the imminent US interest rate increases, should just explain, they are seen to positively impact the net interest margins of the banks, which along with their customer loan books, or the growth of their customer loan books, basically drives their net interest income. So last week, DBS reported its full year 2021 results, and it noted that it's looking ahead to these higher net interest margins, with the management noting that net interest income has sensitivity of around 18 million Sing dollars to 20 million Sing dollars per basis point of US dollar rates, which implies a 25 basis point rise in US interest rate equates to 450 million Singapore dollars to $500 million of additional net interest income for the banks that borrow short and lend long. So DBS also, it was the most sensitive of the trio. I should say its net interest margin was the most sensitive of the trio amid the US interest rate cuts in 2020. So from the fourth quarter of 2019 right through to the fourth quarter of 2021, DBS's net interest margin declined more than 40 basis points amid those extraordinary low interest rates. The higher proportion of current and saving accounts it now has, which it refers to as its CASA, its customer deposits have grown to 76% at the end of last year as well, which is up from 59% at the end of 2019. So on a final point, I should also note that its quarterly dividend has also risen by 9% to 36 cents per share. So annualized, that's $1.44 per share. And on the Friday close last week of $36.45, that represents a yield of exactly 4.0%. UOB, it reported its FY21 net profit was up 40% year on year, up to 4 billion Sing dollars, with net interest income rising 6% from a year ago, while its net fee and commission income rose something like, it was 21% year on year to a record of 2.4 billion Sing dollars. OCBC reports before the open tomorrow morning. And as we said, that trio of banks represents 45% of the STI weights, and hence their performance has been a key driver of the STI's comparative outperformance across the region since the 31st of December. The normalization of interest rates, it has supported banks. The fast interest rate developments, though, since the end of 2021 have actually weighed REITs across the globe, which have been among the lesser performer sectors, pretty much across most countries. 6 of the 7 REITs that are a part of the STI have been among the least performing STI constituents so far this year, on the outlook for the higher borrowing costs or the higher borrowing rates, which on the other hand have conversely supported the banks. So the causes of the inflation have also had impacts on the global stocks, not just the effect through higher interest rates. So the world's biggest ingredient in the energy mix is, of course, oil. It has continued to build its 2021 gains, with Brent crude futures trading above $97 a barrel today. The price ratio spread, I should mention too, of Brent crude to gold has remained pretty constant in February, though, on these elevated geopolitical concerns. But like bank stocks, energy stocks have led global stocks over the past 6 to 7 weeks. The 2 oil and gas explorer and producer stocks listed on SGX that have ranked among the 50 most traded stocks this year, RH Petrogas and Rex International, have gained something like, they've averaged 22% gains so far over those 6 to 7 weeks. With a 27% gain, Sembcorp Industries has been the STI's strongest constituent in the 2020 year to date. Sembcorp Industries, it has pressed on with its strategic transformation of its portfolio from the brown to the green energy. It aims for its sustainable solutions portfolio to comprise 70% of the group's net profit by 2025, which is up from 40% at the end of 2020. And it has also structured its transformation plan to support the global energy transition and, of course, sustainable development in Asia. And as the transition gathers momentum, and you would have seen in Friday, the FY22 budget noted that Singapore's carbon tax rate will be raised at least 3 times within the decade to reach $50 to $80 per tonne of global greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. Now, on the other hand, too, I just wanted to quickly mention that in the year to date, Malaysian crude palm oil futures have also rallied around 20% to 5,700 Malaysian ringgit per metric tonne. And that follows a 30% rally last year. So the decline in global output, it's continued in CPO in early 2020. It's seen Indonesia request permits for palm oil exports. Producers have to set aside 20% of planned export volumes for mandatory domestic sale in Indonesia. The world's biggest importer of crude palm oil is India, and it has been cutting taxes on its CPO imports to help the refiners and the consumers. And meanwhile, Malaysia palm oil stockpiles have continued to flatten and tighten amid all the recent flooding. So the gains have really extended to Singapore-listed non-cyclical consumer stocks that maintain upstream palm oil production activities. So Golden Agri Resources, First Resources, Bumi-Tama Agra are the most traded of those stocks. They've averaged 18% year-to-date returns. So the majority of CPO production, it is located in Indonesia and Malaysia. I think it's India, China, and Europe are the biggest importers, including the United States. And aside from the current supply factors, there have been structural changes in the global palm oil supply due to the slowdown in new plantings throughout Indonesia and Malaysia since 2015. But global supply chain pressures are also a key driver of the inflationary pressures. So container shipping market rates, as we represented by the Freightos Baltic Global Index, they've continued, as you can see in this far left chart, to consolidate near highs. So while it's down something like 15% from the September 2021 highs, the index remains more than 6 times the pre-pandemic norm. And that's on the back of pandemic-induced factors that include surging demand for goods, supply chain disruptions, and port congestion across the globe. For the tech sector, the 2022's demand, I guess, for semiconductors across the world, the 5G cloud and data center services that have driven that really were built into both orders and expectations last year in 2021. And that saw last year the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index rally by 40%. But I think it's a beyond 2022 perspective on the implications of increased capacity, more normalized supply chains, and a deceleration of demand amid further global reopenings has coincided with the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index losing around a quarter of its 2021 gain over the past 7 weeks. So the sub-drivers, I guess, have also given global investors a reason to adjust some of their exposure in the tech sector and take some money off the table in early 2022. Interesting, ISDN Holdings, which ranks just outside the top 50 stocks here in Singapore by turnover, it did highlight late last year that industrial automation has helped reduce labor risks and ensure business continuation as countries continue to have had to adjust and shift policies for on-site workforces and labor access. And it also noted that online sales and logistics have helped businesses also recover faster, adjust their supply distribution faster, and reach customers when the in-person transactions are not possible. And there's plenty more examples of the importance of digitalization and how digitalization extends to our local stock market in the Singapore economy and, of course, the region. I think relatively early in the budget speech on Friday, the Minister for Finance noted that the first priority, among the first priorities, was to strengthen digital capabilities, noting Singapore will firstly upgrade its broadband infrastructure to increase broadband access speeds by what was it, tenfold over the next few years. Secondly, investing in future technologies like 6G and ride the next communications and connectivity wave. And thirdly, use cases for such high speeds. Well, the cases for those high speed solutions weren't strong at this moment, or nascent, I think was the word he said. There are still many possibilities for augmented and virtual reality tools. So this is taking us into the next presentation, which I'm really looking forward to. But before we do that, I'll just also mention the Singapore Business Federation back in December. It did note that local businesses desired more government assistance in digitalisation. It ranked the need for support in digitalisation above human capital development and financial support as well. And I think in its national business survey for 2021 and 2022, the Singapore Business Federation also highlighted that while companies are focusing on digitalisation, even though most firms are aware of the importance of it, many lack manpower and resources to transform their businesses, and the cost burden was hence holding back some transformation initiatives. I think going into the budget, Selena Ling at OCBC also noted that the accelerated changes in the areas of adoption of technology, AI, IoT, and 5G, and of course the hybrid flexible working models, saw that we were embracing the digital economy and the e-commerce as well, which meant very much that these factors were also here to stay. So it's very crucial in our efforts to maintain a leading competitive edge. It is a big part of regional agendas, that is digitalisation. It's one of 5 broad strategies within the ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Economic Framework, and that's aimed to take the region through the current recovery process. So also one more thing, in the APAC Business Advisory Council, which is the private sector arm of APAC, they maintain a digital working group which aims to establish foundational digital infrastructure, accelerate digital tool adoption for the facilitation of trade, and establish how the region can expand vital physical infrastructure to expedite digitalisation and advance digital inclusion. So this is a mega theme for our stock market. So it's probably a good, appropriate time now for me to end and have our first listed immersive digital content production powerhouse, Vividthree Holdings, come on and speak next. Thank you.
Thanks, Geoff. Up next, may I invite the senior management from Vividthree, Mr. Charles Yos. Over to you,
Hello.
please.
Hello, thanks. Good evening, everybody. So without further ado, I'll just go straight to the slides that we have. Can I go to the next slide now? Okay, safe harbor. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, we'll cover the business overview for now first. Go ahead. Next. Okay, sorry, the previous slide. Yeah. So I think if you have if you have followed Vividthree for the past 2-3 years, we started as a small production house doing post-production for movie, TV commercials, and all those video corporates kind of video for the longest time. So we started doing a lot of service work, and then we venture into MICE entertainment, meaning say that we do a lot of government projects. Other than that, we also acquired the rights of Train to Busan. When we roll out Train to Busan, we roll out a few countries. We roll out in Xiamen, we roll out in Beijing, we roll out in Resort World Genting. And before the lockdown, we're supposed to release it in Resort World Sentosa, but due to the lockdown, we did not manage to roll it out. So that's the fundamental business of our service provider. So since release, we have done a lot of shows other than Train to Busan. We also do an escape room in Beijing also. Okay, next slide. So this is the 4 pillar of our business, but you can see from the deck itself, it all revolves around intellectual properties. You know, for our new media business, is a B2B, B2C kind of business. So it's our traditional business, post-production. That's what I mentioned previously, post-production, visual effects, computer generated graphics, everything like that. So this is what we do. MICE entertainment is what we just mentioned about. Okay, can I go back to a previous slide? MICE entertainment, you know, B2G, B2C. Consumer entertainment is a B2C. So this is something, the last pillar is something that is much more interesting because we are going into the digital assets and the data infrastructure part, which is something that we will share a lot more later on. Sorry, next slide. Yep. So as what I mentioned previously, you know, post-production is a bread and butter business that we have been doing for the past 20 over years. So of course, that is the main earnings that we have throughout the many years that we have been going through. But of course, when COVID hit, you know, there was some, I mean, we were affected basically. We were not spared this business also. So other than this, the next one is the MICE entertainment. Can I have the next one? The content production, which is this is a consumer entertainment. Sorry, this is not the slide. The previous slide. Sorry, yep. No, the other pillar. Sorry. Yes, MICE entertainment. Can I show the MICE entertainment? Sorry. Yes. Okay. Anyway, I'll go back to the previous slide. Sorry. No, the next slide. Yes. So post-production, I mean, I just mentioned already. The next slide, please. Thank you. Yes, content production. So when COVID hit, I mean, we have this online platform that we have been trying to work on, and it has been growing progressively very well during the COVID lockdown. And right now we are still working on this. How this platform work is a very, how should I put it? We are trying to incubate new ideas, intellectual property onto this platform. Basically, that if you are a content creator, you draw your comics, you put onto a platform, people view it, and then you get reward from it. So we are trying to build a database, we try to incubate ideas and put it onto ComicBit, which is the platform name of it. And from there, we will try to spin off different IP that have certain viewership and certain traction, and then we'll spin it off to become like a movie, like a series or animation. So currently there are 2 of the IP that we have acquired. I mean, we have developed and it's still in the development stage, which will be probably will launch in Malaysia. And the other one is a Taiwan project that we have been doing right now. Can I have the next slide? Okay, so other than that, the digital data infrastructure, this is something that we have announced recently, which is the blockchain gaming. So we have signed up for a convertible loan with Gamma, which is doing this AAA anime RPG game. So it's a blockchain game, which we will share a bit more later. And then other than that, we have launched our first NFT sales on OpenSea right now, based on an IP that we acquired. It's called Silent Horror. It garnered about 100 over million views on one of the platform in the States and also in Korea itself. Lastly, is the digital assets. There's something that we are quite bullish about. Basically, it's Filecoin mining. It's a decentralized storage that we are trying to get clients to invest in it too. Next slide, thanks. Okay, this part itself, I'll let Jonathan explain a bit more. Where is the blockchain gaming coming? I mean, where is it heading, and why are we involved, and why do we want to put a foot into this whole blockchain gaming and crypto space? Can I have Jonathan?
Hi,
Thanks,
good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Charles, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Go ahead. Thanks.
Okay, so to talk about this, like, I mean, if you look at the numbers, up to 2021, it was, I mean, on this slide, it's $180 billion. That's the market size, right? And up to 2025, on this slide, it says 257 billion. But depending on which source of data you read, this numbers goes up to $600 to $700 billion. Of course, this goes across hardware, software, IP, console, PC, the whole spectrum of how games are consumed, so to speak. But the key about gaming is that it's also very IP-centric, intellectual property-centric, in the sense that, if you can look at my border, right? So this is something that, this is the first game that we did under Gamma. It's original artwork, original storyline. And the key about this is that when we entrench such an intellectual property to our community of gamers, then we can actually extend that IP into the real world. In what sense? We can extend it into merchandising, collectibles, figurines, phygitals, which are like physical plus digital collectibles, and even mice exhibitions that Vividthree has done before with Train to Busan. So when I went to since we are working on this together, and I'm advising on the digital assets foray, there's actually strategic alignment between Gamma and Vividthree, because of course we recognize that Vividthree has long tenure and track record and experience in rolling out such activities, content creation, production, special effects and all that. So this is exactly what gaming means as well. So if you go and see our website, basically it's www.skyark Chronicles, SKYARK, Chronicles.com. You will see that there's a trailer video. So the trailer video was actually done by Vividthree, right? When that is done, then we look at basically the onset of COVID. So what really happened during COVID, the onset of COVID, starting in 2020, right, was that everybody was locked at home. Like everybody couldn't go out. in the second quarter that started coming in Singapore. We had a 4-month lockdown. So what really spurred this whole development is the play to earn phenomenon. Play to earn meaning to say literally, you play a game and you can earn from playing a game. This basically changes the whole landscape of gaming, where we are told that to play a game, we need to spend money, right? So we spend money to buy either the CD, the disc, on the mobile apps, we need to spend money. But play to earn started the revolution of earning money from playing games, right? And if you look at perhaps the biggest title in this that started all this, it's called Axie Infinity. Right, Axie Infinity saw huge growth. Vietnamese team started very small and then grew very big. So for us, for myself and the team that's working on this project, we wanted to stake a Singapore flag across the world and say that this is what we're going to do. Because if you look at the Singapore space, the publishers like SEA Group has done very well. Hardware, the likes of Razer has done very well. So Singapore seems to have some good luck and affinity in gaming, right? So we wanted to be the game studio out of Singapore, where we can grow and develop this. So some of the problems that independent game developers face today is, of course, number one, lack of financing, right? Which Gamma hopes to solve this issue. And number two, a lack of resources to turn it around. So to do a game, actually, it's a very complicated process, right? You need to think of the artwork, the gameplay, the game mechanics, the video. How do you attract your community to be aware of what you have, and then to sustain that over a long-term gestation period. So all this, we have done this process. My team has more than, each of them has more than 8 to 10 years experience doing this. So I put together the team, and we are basically working on our first 2 titles under SkyUp Chronicles. So, without revealing too much, I guess, information gets revealed over time. We would announce more specific to SkyUp Chronicles as time passes in the next 1 to 2 months. I pass it back to Charles.
Yep.
Or maybe I will. Sorry. So as I mentioned earlier, what is the problem in gaming today? So we can look at the proposed investment in Gamma, Vividthree into Gamma, is basically pre-production to post-production and the sustainable cycle around it, right? So the idea is anybody, smaller team, can come to Gamma, show what they want to do, the concept, the gameplay, what they need, what they have, what they don't have. Gamma and the team then fills the gaps of what they do not have together with Vividthree, and then we go to the market to help them find financing, do testing for the product, right? So the key about this is one critical point. If you look at the history of gaming, there have been many projects which spend millions, tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions of dollars and did not deliver that product. Either did not deliver, or when they launched the product failed. So in blockchain gaming, it's actually the reverse. We basically go to the market and we tell the community what we're going to do. If there's enough support from the community, then we start developing the game. So thankfully, we've got quite a sizable community for SkyUp Chronicles. Today on our Telegram group, about 9,000 community. On our Discord, about 5,000 people. So we intend to grow this. And the way we grow this is that we identify strategic territorial partners in countries like Vietnam, for example, South Africa, Brazil, Turkey. It's spread across the world. We then form a collaborative partnership with the local operators, and then they help us grow the local community. And then we share the upside, right? So in doing so, we do the fundraise, we issue the white paper to detail what the game is about, how it will operate, what kind of extensions it will look into, what is the roadmap of the game. So these are some of the things that the community comes aware of, and the game is developed for launch. So on launch, there's of course the alpha version, beta version, commercial release, and then we start to earn income ideally, right? So the key is, we reckon, of course, some some of you will be thinking, oh, but it's so difficult to build a banger of a title. Right? That is true. That is true. There aren't many game titles that have survived, let's say, 1 year, 2 years, or even 3 years. You can count the number of games that have sustained, 5 to 10 years, right? And these are games that make hundreds of millions of dollars, right? But the key of Gamma is not only to make a banger of a game, but really to build an ecosystem around gaming. And that ecosystem could be extended into, as I mentioned earlier, the extensions, merchandising, collectibles, exhibitions, figurines, it's endless. Animation, for example, movies, we could also adapt that into movies. So those are all possibilities, right? Can I move to the next slide? So SIAS Chronicles is also incubated under Binance incubation. So a bit of history for everyone here. Right? In round 1 of Binance incubation, season 1, they invested in about 40, 50 projects. Prime of one of these projects was Polygon or Matic Network, right? Now it's a multi-billion-dollar entity. In the second season, they invested in about 20 projects. Dune Analytics came out of season 2. So SIAS Chronicles is under season 3, right? The roadmap is also available on our website. I think later shortly I can type the website into the group chat so everybody can refer to it, or I can show it as well. And as if you look at the bottom right, where we talk about potential multiple streams of income, we have the NFTs, and basically, those extensions that I mentioned before, music, anime, comics, figurines as well. Right? Can I have the next slide? For this, as Charles mentioned earlier, so the IP is owned by Vividthree. We basically put together a working group within the Vividthree team and started from scratch to finally launching it. And we will extend, we're working collaboratively to extend this through what Vividthree has, which is Comic Vid. So that's the version 2.0. That's work in progress, akan datang. Again, we'll share more. I'll leave it to Charles to share more when the time is right.
Thanks.
The key about the NFTs, something to know about NFTs is, of course, number one, there's a royalty involved in each NFT. So any launch on OpenSea, which is the world number 1 or 2, depending on how we look at it, right? NFT marketplace, there's a royalty fee attached, meaning to say at primary issuance, when the originator, for example, me in this case, sell to all of you in this group chat, and you sell it amongst yourselves, I would basically earn a recurring fee on that. Number 2, of course, is the transaction fee owned by, that's earned from operating the platform. In this case, OpenSea earns a 2.5% fee for every transaction that is finalized, right? Of course, then the key is to build your own NFT marketplace. Everyone wants to do that, right? But there are some challenges that needs to be looked into. But we personally think, given the captive assets that Vividthree and Comic Vid has access to, we think that it is something that we can build from and extend into specific for Comic Vid, right? So this is just a first example of what's possible. Can I move to the next slide? Thank you. And this is separate. This is linked to digital assets, but separate from gaming, right? So as Charles also mentioned earlier, this is the foray into digital storage, decentralized storage, data storage infrastructure, right? So the idea behind Filecoin is the #1 market capped project that facilitates decentralized storage. So the activity of mining, which is the providence of storage, there are 3 kinds of storage under Filecoin. So you have storage miners, retrieval miners, and recovery miners. At this current juncture, only the first 2 are in operations. So what exactly entails in doing a setup like that is basically to find funding and/or customers to put money to buy hardware. So if you all can refer to the white box, that this is actually taken from Filecoin website, where it shows the flow between how the commercial angle starts from a user paying the miner to store their file. So a lot of people will be asking, why you want to do that? I mean, isn't there already Amazon AWS, Huawei Cloud, Microsoft Azure? Yeah, they are. But I bring to mind everybody last year, I think a couple of months back, you'll remember there was one day that WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook went down. That was because there was a gap in the data storage, right? So the decentralized storage basically is having that same data, but in distributed nodes. If one is down, some redundancy layer pops up. If one node is down, another node pops up. So there is a redundancy in that. The other thing about this is, of course, it's in its very early stages of development. The cost is actually cheaper than the current incumbents for centralized cloud storage. Can I move to the next slide? So the process of setting this up is basically a 4 to 6 week process, right? So depending on the hardware, like in Singapore, for example, data centers are running out of space. For two main reasons. Number one, there's a lot of demand in Singapore for access to data centers. Number two, the Chinese miners are moving out of China and into US, Canada, Singapore is one of those, Hong Kong, Europe as well. But as it is today, there's not enough data centers in Singapore. And it's not a problem of space, although we're a small country. It's a problem where we do not, I mean, as a country, we do not have enough electricity supply on the main grid to power the data center. But the government is already, working on these developments. And yeah, I mean, the commercial parts, I'll leave it to Charles about that. Basically, it's done at arm's length. Vividthree has a right to acquire 51% of the entity doing these operations.
I think so.
Yeah, can I move to the next slide?
Next slide, please.
Yeah, okay, I'll pass it back to Charles.
Can I have the next slide? Do you want me to go through this? Sorry, can we do the next slide also? So this is a balance sheet of us. Basically, I will not elaborate a bit more on this. Next slide, please. Okay, basically, I'll just summarize where Vividthree is heading on in the next, for the short term and the long term itself. I hate to use the word pivot for the longest time, but I think that I got no choice, but we need to pivot now because although this COVID thing, it might just go off, within the next few months, but I think that when this COVID hit, but I think it gives us a chance to reflect and also a chance to re-look at the whole thing that, is it maybe time for us to evolve again? Because for your information, because Vividthree has been around for the past 18 to 20 years, we started as a very small studio, it's like a 750 or 300 square feet office. Then we work our way, we started with $4,000. The other two are my co-founder, basically. So we have been evolving throughout the years, from a small studio to an animation studio, from a TV commercial, from a corporate video, all the way we have been evolving. So when we went for the listing, we also evolved ourselves to become a nice, roll out IP shows, VR shows, all that. So maybe it's time for us to evolve again. And I think that it's a good time for us to evolve into something that our core competency allow us to do that. I'll touch on that in a very simpler way. Because you see, whatever game asset is needed to be done, Vividthree, we can do it. Because we roll out sleeve and get our hands dirty, basically, just to say that, because we do all the production work. But for the longest time, we have been doing production work for people. Meaning to say that, we do one service work, we get X amount of dollar, end of story, case closed. There's no recurring. But if we do our game, we do our game and we own the IP, that allow us to have recurring. And that allow us to own the IP and we can roll out the offline shows. Meaning to say that all those like what we roll out for Train to Busan in Resort World Genting or China, other parts of China. So this is something that I think that it makes sense for us to evolve, or you can say pivot, but it makes sense because SIAS itself is gaining traction. We have been talking to some of our clients for this Filecoin mining project, and we are gaining traction on it, and hopefully in the next few months we're able to close some clients to come in to take part in this Filecoin mining project itself. So for us, I would say that it's something for us to seriously look at in terms of the digital assets and this infrastructure thing, because there's no way to deny that, or rather I say that, cryptocurrency, the digital assets world is already here. But how do we embrace it and make full use of it? Definitely we are putting a foot in now because we have SIAS, we got Filecoin mining, and Filecoin mining itself, it acts as a recurring income for us. I will not touch on the whole business model, how the details of it, but it makes sense for us to be vested in it. So it gives us a recurring, and we can really just slowly, put our hands off on the service work, and it will make sense for us in the near future. So other than that, what I mentioned is that there's increasing needs for NFT immersive experience in metaverse, which we have the capability to do that too. We are not like something like we are open an F&B shop, but after that we go into metaverse, NFT. But our DNA is in content creation, in digital creation. That is our forte, and that's something nobody can take away from us, because that is our forte and our core competency that it's been with us since day one when we started this business. Can I have the next slide? Yeah, that's our vision. Technology is the forefront of what we do. Bringing spark to idea where we create new world to everybody, everywhere. And of course, we deliver unforgettable experience offline and online itself. So that's what we are trying to achieve in the near future. Next slide, please. Thanks. This is a group structure itself. Of course, Gamma is not in yet because we have not do the conversion yet. But once everything is ready, we'll probably do it itself. The next slide, please. Thank you. Yep. Okay, that's about it. Maybe I can take some question. Me and Jonathan can take some question from the floor itself.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Yeo and Mr. Zhang, for the interesting presentation on the company. We now come to the Q&A sessions. Can I invite Mr. Benjamin Goh, Head of Research and Investor Education from SIAS, to moderate the Q&A session? I just want to remind participants as you can input your questions into the Q&A session, and for our Facebook audience, you can click on the link and then join the Zoom to post your questions as well. Over to you, Benjamin.
Okay, thank you very much, Elaine. So very warm welcome to Charles and Jonathan. Thank you very much for joining us. Actually, there was a little bit of an excitement, looking forward to your presentation. We already have some questions rolling in. So I think this is quite a good start. So the first question is from Ms. Quack. So how is the outlook like for post-production versus a year ago?
Wow. From a year ago to now. I think it's still quite slow, but projects started to come back and clients started coming back, but I don't think that is something that we really want to focus on, because it's more or less the brick and mortar thing is already there. It's just whether do we want to really focus on what we have been doing for the past 20 years, or we want to move on and evolve the company itself, which I think that it should be the later rather than former itself.
Okay, I guess this harks back to what you're talking about, the company pivoting into a different area compared to 20 years ago.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. The next question is about your digital assets expansion. So you've got quite a few things going on. So the question is, which do you think has the most promise and immediate profit or cash flow to Vividthree?
I would think that the Filecoin mining would be the one that will have the potential cash flow and profit, which come in very instantaneously, which it will make sense. That's why I keep on elaborating on the Filecoin mining. I wasn't a believer in all this digital assets thing, but when Jonathan introduced all these things to us, that's why I start to realize that it makes sense. Everything makes sense when you really deep dive into the whole crypto world, digital assets world. It really makes sense, but you must be in it. You must really live and breathe it. I'm not the kind of native crypto person, digital asset person, but I think that, reading up, knowing more, that will help you a lot to understand a bit more,
Yeah, that's true. I guess from the investor side of things, in terms of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, normally we treat financial products. Yeah, but I probably you've read the news that Intel is coming out with a new chip to do Bitcoin mining, right? That's quite, I guess, exciting in the realm of technology.
It's always good to hear all these big players coming and say that try to play some parts for this whole ecosystem thing, which whether at the end of the day whether it helps or don't help, but I think it's still good to hear all this good news coming in.
Yeah, I mean, as long as there's better products out there, so that will
Of
also help
course.
your business.
Of course,
if you do want to
definitely.
go into that, okay. All right. Okay. The next question is about Skylark Chronicles. So the question is there any possibility of spinning Skylark Chronicles off or selling it?
Oh, me and Jonathan, we have been discussing about this actually. Potentially, probably, if we could raise that money and we could be valued at X amount of dollar, why not? If somebody just come in and say that, I'll buy Sky for 100 million, I'll just say take and go. That because we always believe that there will be always another project that we can embark to. As what Jonathan mentioned, that we want to be the next, the Asia Mocha, rather than just doing just one project itself. Yeah. Sorry, you're breaking up. I can't hear you.
Can't hear you, Benjamin.
Yeah, can't hear you, Benjamin.
Sorry. So I think there's some feedback. So Charles and Jonathan, I think one of you needs to be unmuted. So there's some echoing in the conference room. All right. So that's great. So sounds like you guys are keeping your options open. In terms of husbanding your resources as well as getting cash flow. So as long as your assets are available, then you will consider that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next question is Vividthree the company that was responsible for the NFT for Our Girls?
No, we are not. We are not the one that produce it. MM2 itself, they get it done by themselves. So I wouldn't comment too much.
Okay.
You look at the two different NFT, you will see the difference. Yeah.
Okay, and I guess for the emerging market for NFTs, it's very important for you to own the assets. That's why you guys are creating NFTs only based on your own assets, correct?
Mm-hmm. But we are also exploring to work with partners, meaning to say that you could be a influencer, you could be anybody that you've got good solid idea. Importantly is that if you hold a community, if you have a community, we are willing to look into it and we are willing to work out something with you. So basically, actually, we are also talking to one or two that potentially we might strike up a deal with them also. Yeah. So okay. I mean, it's really the spectrum is too wide. Anything is possible. It's for us to brainstorm and what can we really make the best out of it.
I think that makes sense. And it's heartening to see that for a listed company, Vividthree is still very nimble. Exploring the frontiers of technology. Some companies only have got a one trick that they do very well. So this is their bread and butter, and they've been doing it, and they're going to continue doing it. So it's quite exciting that a homegrown company is trying quite a few things. To be quite honest, I have no idea half of what you mentioned just now. So I'm old school. I buy video games off Steam, and that's kind of it, right?
No, you're already there. If you buy game off Steam, you're already there. You are halfway there. You're halfway there. Trust me, you're halfway there.
But what you're talking about, creating games because somebody asked for it, is that Kickstarter or it's a totally different ball game for me.
It's a totally different model. Yes, it is totally different. Yeah, which is backed by community, the community rocks kind of thing. But you're halfway there. I would say you're halfway. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not that old a dinosaur, but okay, gotta learn. Okay, so a couple of other questions here. So overall, you've got quite a few business units moving, going ahead, so on and so forth. what would you say would be your largest opportunity for the company?
Largest opportunity, yeah.
Yeah.
Largest, I mean, we're already in it, right? We're already in the largest opportunity, which is SkyArk and Filecoin mining, which already identified is there.
Okay.
So I think we are in the best place, the best time, and everything is best for now. Just need to get it done, roll it out. Then I think we are good to go.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's about timing. So if you look at the market nowadays, NFT is on the ascent. Bitcoin, okay, so didn't do so well, but it may come back, so on and so forth. Yeah, so I think that is probably in the right space as well, Vividthree. Okay, next question is regarding the financials. All right, so so many business units, so many new frontiers that you want to conquer. Would you be able to elaborate on your capital structure and your proposed capital expenditure for all these expansions?
Okay, because I mean, if you're aware that recently you just did a placement of 2.2 million, that's one of it. We're also looking at the option of doing another placement, or probably do a convertible or some facility that we can tap on, or some government grant that we can tap on. So we are looking everywhere to get things done. And of course, once we have client for our Filecoin mining, that will really help us in the cash flow itself. So yeah, I mean, I can't plan for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years kind of thing, but I think that we are in a good position right now, and we are in a good space. And I think that eventually things will fall in place nicely as long as we do what we are set up for, which I think it should be in that manner. Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like you have got the plans in place and it's about executing them.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay. So back to Filecoin mining, there's a question here. What is the potential kind of profitability for your Filecoin mining operations? So you mentioned it's more of a near-term venture. So when can investors see contribution from Filecoin mining?
For this, maybe I get Jonathan to answer this. Jonathan, can you address this?
I mean, we're in the midst of helping talk to different. I mean, we're talking to asset management firms. That's number one, and also on the lending side, talking to other financial institutions as well. So that's ongoing. I mean, this is really, you see, I guess everybody will appreciate that. This is really new, and for us to do anything related to something new, there is a gestation period, right? So as much as we are spending a lot of time, I can assure you we spend a lot of time every day talking to different parties. It takes time to get there. But I believe that the moment that we reach that gate and the floodgates are open, then it will just be exponential and incremental from there. It's just this early stage that we need to go and educate, exchange, communicate, understand what others are concerned about, allay those fears, address those concerns, and then this will be converted.
Okay. So I guess as time goes on and we get more information through your exchange filings, then we get a better idea of how that's going to contribute to the cash flow.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. So a different question here. So back to your post and content production business here. So what is Vividthree's strategy to grow this business? Because based on the financials, it still contributes about the bulk of your total revenue, right?
Yeah. So for the post-production itself, I mean, we are still working on a lot of projects right now. That's why I mentioned that most of the projects are coming back, but we are trying to work on the manpower itself. How do we really put some of it onto SkyArk and put some of it onto the existing without like compromising on it itself? But as far as I'm concerned, is that we don't compromise on quality when we produce any content out. And of course, if you ask me, of course, I'm really focusing very much on the SkyArk project, which we are really trying to make it work and make it as good as possible. you know, rather than trying to make other people things as good as possible. So yeah, I think that we will still continue to do that, but you know, we'll be more selective on the project that we do, which we have been doing that, being selective on a project, because if the margin doesn't make sense, we will not do it. You know, but suddenly when you say that you don't do it, you know, people come back with bigger budget for you to do things. You know, so that's something that we need to juggle. You know, that's something we need to juggle around. Yeah.
I guess that's a benefit of having a track record. So although
Yeah.
you're trying to pivot away, people still come back to you because of your
Yeah,
existing
so
expertise.
sometimes it's really difficult, you know, sometimes like old client come back to you and say, I have this, then you just reject, say, I can't do this because the budget doesn't allow me to do this, you know, or manpower costs, etc., etc. Oh, why not I give you a bit more? I say, no, because I got something else to focus on. Yeah, but definitely we'll be very mindful about our cash flow, our P&L. Yeah, you know, without like, you know, sometimes when people get so overwhelmed by the new thing, you know, it tends to neglect whatever that is bringing you your bread and butter kind of thing. So I think I've been in this business, or rather I've been doing business for the past 20 years. I know well enough, you know, I was down and out when me and my two co-founders, we started out $4,000, you know. Although today the market cap is about 22 million. I think I did my ancestors and did my parents proud. I would say that. But I think that, you know, it's sometimes it's really how we do things, and not so much about, you know, talking to people and say that, oh, I will make this amount of money, I'll make this amount of money. But I think that, you know, is really putting our heart and soul into something that we want to build, and making sure that, you know, whatever we build really touches people, rather than something that's too cold that, you know, you try to blow your own horns, whatever kind of thing. You know, Vividthree is not that kind of company. You know, we are not that kind of company that tell you, say that, oh, I will give you dividends, I will give you this, I will make X amount of dollar. You know, no, we don't do that. We are not do that. If retail investor is looking for this kind of sweet talk kind of thing, I think they're in the wrong space. You know, we are not that kind of people. So we are really, we put our heart and soul into something that we do, which is not so much of like, you know, paint your nice picture, you know, kind of thing. We don't do that. Yeah.
Well,
is that a bit random?
I mean, I have to say that the candid nature in your presentation is a breath of fresh air. I would also have to say that this presentation has, you guys have spent the least amount of time on the financials. Most of the time, you know, and of course, if you look at the annual reports, always so sui and very glossy, you know, a lot of angkong, a lot of picture, then the financials. So it's actually quite nice to have a honest, you know, conversation.
You got me on that. I'm not a financial person. You know, I was a trained multimedia designer from NAFA.
I can tell, you know, so you guys started on your own projects, and then it's a kind of a.
So when I see numbers, I'll tell Jonathan, hey, Jonathan, let's try to work out something on this. You know, or get my FC to, hey, let's try to work out on something. It's not my forte. You know, if I'm not my forte, I will not bullshit and try to, you know, wiggle my way through. Like, you know, it's not mine. You know, I'm still in the creative back end kind of thing. I still prefer to live and breathe what I believe in and what I'm good with.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I see Jonathan is here.
Okay.
Our advisor. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So good thing Jonathan is here. We do have quite a complex finance question here. Okay, let me just read it out to you. So the placement exercise was for 5.9 cents, right?
Yep,
so
correct.
The price hit a high of 11.3 cents after the placement was announced back in October. Was it?
No, it wasn't the placement that was announced. It's about Gamma that was announced.
Okay.
Yes, Gamma.
Okay. And I'm just quickly trying to paraphrase the question. Okay, but then the price has moved down quite a fair bit. Now it's about 5.4 cents.
Yep.
Okay. So the total raise was $2.1 million. 50% was to finance future acquisitions, and 50% was to fund existing, or rather new projects. Okay. So how much was it used? How much was used to subscribe to the $4.08 million convertible note? I guess the question is, so Vividthree has raised funds, right? And how much was it, used to, or how much of it are you guys earmarking for new businesses, existing projects, and then for, to pay back the convertible debt that you guys have?
Convertible debt we have.
Yeah, there's a $4.08 million
okay.
convert.
Okay. No, this 4.08 million is for Gamma. If in the event if we want to convert into equity for Gamma itself, right now, I mean it's very transparent. We are looking at how Gamma is run by Jonathan. See how this whole place is going, how this whole business plan where it is heading to. So it acts as our safety net. I wouldn't think that Gamma will fail. I wouldn't think that Sky will fail or anything, but it's our preventive measure that we need to take. So if we manage to, if Gamma really fly and everything, which I believe it will, we will look into now either debt or equity to raise that money to convert our CL, the convertible loans from Gamma itself.
I mean, from a finance perspective, it makes sense because if you're doing well, your stock price will go up. So
yes,
you convert it, shareholders will be happy.
Correct.
That makes sense. Okay. There was a question about dividend. Any plan from management to do a dividend payout in the future?
Definitely, if we have the capability, we will do it. But I think that we are still growing. Definitely, we need to reinvest back into whatever we are focusing on in the near future. But I think that it doesn't make sense for us to pay dividends right now because we are still in the growing phase. Infancy, I would say. Infancy in this digital space. But if we already go into it, of course, I won't point to where we will pay dividends, but the answer is not, at least not for now.
Okay. All right. And I guess last question from myself, or maybe two questions. So one is, you guys have seen the Unreal 5 videos on YouTube, right? Is that something that impacts your business? Is that friend or foe? I mean, you guys using it as a tool, or do you think that's more of a challenge for post-production houses like yourself?
No, I don't think so, because you see, we, no matter what, our fundamental and our focus is still on content. All these are tools, whether you say Unreal, Unity, or any new thing that's coming up. It doesn't really affect us that much. How it affects us is that we can produce better quality stuff with the engine kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, the answer is no, it doesn't affect us.
Okay, so it's something that you use, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's a tool. It's a tool for us to use.
Okay. And just to wrap it off, so 3 minutes past it, a bit behind time, but just wrap it off. When can we come down and visit your office? Because it sounds like you guys got a lot of things going on. You'd be pretty cool.
You can, you all can come by now because we're in your office.
Yeah. So on behalf of SIAS, and we do have regular viewers on that. We try to kind of jazz out our programming. So
I see.
this is your company is a very exciting space, so many things going on. So we are trying to kind of organize visits, given the COVID-19 and whatever. So after the restrictions are lifted, then we want to organize visits to companies like yours, very exciting, very nimble, to see what you guys are doing.
Sure. Let's arrange, no problem.
Okay. All right. So akan datang. All right.
Akan datang.
Okay. So thank you very much. We're a little bit over time, but
could you try again?
But very appreciative of your candor and, of course, the insights into your businesses going forward. So look forward to seeing you guys in the office and coming up, showing me what you guys are up to, your next game or something. I don't know.
Maybe you can invest a bit,
Yeah, I don't know. I'm playing Far Cry 6, man. I'm getting my butt kicked at, I don't know. Not really.
That's why I say you're almost there. You just need to have this crypto thing in your dictionary or whatever, then you will be there.
All right, very good. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Elaine, back to you.
Thank you.
Well, I think first of all, I learned a bit of NFT today, and also the digital space. Really insightful for the Q&A sessions. Now, without further ado, I think we have come to the end of the session. Thank you everyone for joining this evening. In case you missed any part of today's session, you can rewatch the webinar on SIAS YouTube channel. And last but not least, Corporate Connect is a bi-monthly webinar. So do visit our website to get updates on our upcoming investor education programs and initiatives. So thank you very much and have a good evening. Thanks everyone for joining, as well as our Facebook audience. Thank you.
Thank you.